What's up, everyone? Jim and Terry here to talk about some footage from Doctor Strange that you saw last night at a special fan IMAX event.
I am now the Sorceress Supreme.
You are. You saw about 15 minutes of this thing. I can't wait to see it myself. First of all, you have an article up on the site talking about how trippy this footage is. As somebody who grew up loving Doctor Strange and just how weird it could get, tell us about how weird and trippy Doctor Strange looked.
It's pretty weird, and I say that with enthusiasm, but it was something where I went into the movie. I did not grow up reading Doctor Strange or really knowing a lot of Steve Ditko's source material. Obviously, I've seen the art, but I thought that maybe Marvel would go more mainstream with the Doctor Strange origin story. The trailers are really cool, and there's a lot of really surrealist stuff we see from New York folding in on itself, but we haven't seen much of what they're doing in the astral plane. I don't know why I thought that Marvel would go mainstream. They're so deep into the MCU now, and they pull no punches. So we saw 15 minutes of footage, and it was what Scott Derrickson, the director, said was representative of the film. So I didn't get that much in the way of plot, but definitely a lot, of the opening. We meet sort of the very egotistical Doctor Strange. We see his, spoilers if you don't know his origin story, but his car accident that results in his hands being destroyed. We see him go to the Ancient One and start to learn to train. And that scene from the trailer that has been used over and over again, where the Ancient One pushes him out into his astral form, and basically what comes after, and she sends him into the astral realm, and it's bananas. Trippy is the best way I can see. I kept thinking of the Good Dinosaur drug sequence. I don't know why that was the drug sequence that I went to, but where it's just so bizarre and abstract, and you're like, what am I seeing? And we saw it in IMAX 3D, so you definitely felt like you were in it, but they just went for it, man. It's so crazy. And the one scene that really struck out to me, because Strange isn't really in control during this sequence, and he's going through all these different areas, and everything is just bizarre.
It's even crazier than what you saw, what we all saw with Ant-Man when he goes to
that was child's play compared to here. And there's this one scene where Strange looks down at his hand, and his fingers grow hands, and then their fingers grow hands, and then suddenly he's just being grabbed by all these hands. And I felt in that moment, Scott Derrickson, who's done a lot of horror, I felt sort of the tinge of horror there. And so we get teases of the mirror dimension and the dark dimension, and the last sort of act of the footage we saw, if you will, was this big fight between Strange and Mordo, who's Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Caecilius, who's the villain played by Mads Mikkelsen, and they seem to be going in between New York City battlefield as they're warping and bending, and buildings are folding in half, and a lot of what we've seen in the trailers, but a lot more, and jumping in between and fighting in the astral realm. And there's a shot where Strange and Mordo are trying to run through a portal, I'm guessing maybe away from New York City, but maybe into the astral plane, and Caecilius causes the entire city to shift. And so they're running on the street, and then suddenly they're falling sideways. And it's a lot of bending reality, and in a really seamless way. But it's so trippy. It's so bizarre to watch.
I can't wait to see it, because again, I grew up reading those comics, but the way the footage sounds laid out, it does sound like you're getting a linear kind of narrative, despite all the really heady and reality-bending visuals. It sounds like a fairly straightforward origin story. Is it too straightforward? Because the way, at least, if I read your piece correctly, it sounds like accident, training, final battle. That to me doesn't seem like he gets to really fight that often. How does to prove that he's Sorcerer Supreme?
Yeah, I've been grappling with that a little bit as well, because obviously 15 minutes can be representative of the visual style of the movie, but they didn't really give away much in the way of plot. I don't know why Strange and Caecilius are fighting. We see a small hint of Caecilius having these followers, and the Ancient One makes a comment about, there are some people trying to take down world and destroy it, but we don't get any firm thoughts. And it seems maybe maybe because they were split-second scenes, but it seems like Dormammu might have appeared in the footage. You see Dormammu. You see Strange in front of like this massive face that, I don't know, could be that. That's speculation.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, look, he's Doctor Strange's like main adversary in the comics, so it would be interesting if he was, because we know that Caecilius, Mads Mikkelsen's character, is likely sort of an intermediate, and might be kind of the herald, the descent. It's kind of like a weird Silver Surfer kind of Galactus thing there, where like there's this greater threat that he might be trying to usher in.
So there were hints and sort of Easter eggs that there could be something bigger at play, but I did walk out of this thinking, if this is representative of the plot, it does seem to be a very sort of vanilla, straightforward Marvel origin story.
Which is really weird, because for a movie that seems so abstract, so bizarre, to have a very conventional plot, it's either maybe it's going to be really to its benefit because it'll make you it's just easier to latch onto, or it'll be kind of underwhelming. But so we don't know. We'll have to see the whole film.
Yeah, it makes me think that there is something more to it, right? Because we were in a similar situation with Guardians of the Galaxy, where there was an early footage presentation, and we were shown an array of footage that was supposed to be representative of the movie, but it's hard to understand what Guardians is as a whole just seeing its smaller parts.
Right.
So I think this footage was really trying to sell just how crazy and abstract and true to the Steve Ditko story and art Doctor Strange is, without giving away much in the sake of plot. And my hope, and I will say, like, I really like Marvel movies, but part of it is because they've earned my trust, that I feel like they do know that they need to balance incredible visuals, incredible representation of the comics with a strong story. And I think that's why they've seen the success they have. So my hope is that the story will be a good counterbalance to the insanity of the visuals.
Well, all that insanity, the comics themselves lend themselves to crazy things like a multiverse, and
which was mentioned a lot in this footage.
Yes,
a lot.
And also mentioned by you had a chat with Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige. Tell us a little bit about what he had to say about the multiverse and what sort of how deep down that rabbit hole might they go.
Well, I can quote that exactly.
Well, look at that. It's almost like we had a segue in mind. That would never happen.
I can read exactly what he said. And it was myself and old IGN friend Roth Cornett double teamed Kevin Feige last night. It was a beautiful thing. I asked him about this because the multiverse, obviously a big part, separate, different sort of idea, but big part of the DC universe. And then we knew at Comic-Con that they were bringing the multiverse into Marvel, the MCU as well. And this footage went pretty heavy on multiverse references. Even the Ancient One says to Doctor Strange, like, who are you within this multiverse, Doctor Strange? And what Kevin said was the extent of the multiverse is really only referenced in this movie. We reference it and we set it up. Where that goes, we'll see, but that's an exciting thing to do. That's a fun tool to be able to access. It's also a colossal pothole that you can fall into and die. We want to avoid getting into too much confusing continuity when it comes to the multiverse. So my question had basically been, is the Doctor Strange movie going to really dig into what the multiverse is, or are you setting it up for future use? And it sounds like it is a future use sort of thing. Yeah,
no, it really does. And it does sound like that is the best way to do it. You're setting up for, look, we're getting increasingly cosmic now with the MCU. We have a Guardian sequel coming out. We have Captain Marvel. Maybe someday they'll get to the Inhumans movie.
But we always have them on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
But there's also Avengers Infinity War coming up, and then the fourth Avengers movie. So it's possible that they'll get into that really deep well of very nerdy, I love it, comic book stuff of multiverse and go into different places and realities and all that. But he is absolutely right in saying that it is a pothole to fall into, and that you could die in that pothole, because there are things that you can do in comics and that you accept in comics that as a movie-going audience is maybe that bridge too far.
Right.
But Marvel has been really great at like balancing super nerdy with just enough to get the mainstream on board. I do hope Doctor Strange can keep that
And
going.
I was going to say, that I think this is a movie that is going to test that balance because based on what I've seen, and it could be that because they knew the fans were going to be showing up for this footage, not like you aren't bringing your grandma, you're bringing your favorite Doctor Strange loving, like comics reading friends. Maybe it went heavy on the astral plane side of it, and that, again, I keep using the word trippy, but I think it's the most representative of it. And that balance might not be the same as what's in the movie, but I did feel like they were pushing what is within our realm of understanding and our comfort zone as a comic book movie going audience. So I'm interested to see. I didn't think that it would be as potentially risky a move as I now feel going into this footage. But seeing it, I was like, you guys got something. It at least has its own personality.
They've been using the Avengers a little bit
people.
in the marketing. They're name checking them. The scene between Wong and Doctor Strange, where he's like, basically I'm paraphrasing that the Avengers protect our reality, this realm, but the masters of the mystic arts protect us from threats from a different kind of reality. And I believe that I've been on the road, so I haven't seen some of these spots, but I believe that they're now, a la Ant-Man, using Avengers characters to kind of pop up, not that they're in the movie, but that in the marketing to remind people this is all tied in together. You love Iron Man, you love Thor, Captain America. Hey, they're all in, all the same universe.
That line from Wong was also in the footage that we saw, where he essentially compares the Masters of the Mystic Arts role in protecting the world, the various realms and reality, as compared to the Avengers, which is obviously interesting foreshadowing since we know that Doctor Strange is going to be in Infinity War. But it was interesting seeing there was a cool Easter egg in the footage we saw towards the beginning.
It's a spoiler warning, but
yes, spoiler warning from the footage we saw. But there is a moment the scene that causes Doctor Strange to get in his car accident. Basically, he's speeding along a windy road as it starts to rain, and he is trying to pick his next big surgery, and he's getting suggestions of different big surgeries that are options. And one of them, they're talking about, a guy whose spine was damaged after getting in a fight that went wrong with a super suit, and you realize, oh, he's talking about Rhodey, about War Machine. And Strange is like, nope, next. So what could have been if he just slowed down, taken that one? Maybe Rhodey wouldn't have a damaged spine and Strange wouldn't be Doctor Strange. But it's interesting. Another quote I will pull out from talking to Kevin Feige was that we were talking about how do you keep a balance within the Avengers when Doctor Strange has in many ways godlike powers. Captain Marvel, when she comes, definitely she's probably the most powerful of all the Avengers. At that point, you still have Hawkeye and Black Widow, who have very practical, very capable abilities, but still very practical. And what Kevin Feige said sort of about where they leave Doctor Strange going into Infinity War is he's not all powerful. Without giving too much away, he's not an expert when he faces off against things he has to face off with in this movie, even toward the end of the movie. So there's a learning curve for him, which is always fun for all the heroes, and they face a pretty tough dude in the next Avengers movie. So that's sort of a tease of how they're going to keep Doctor Strange making sort of a cohesive sense within the Avengers universe with an eye to looking forward while also introducing a new element of the MCU.
Look, this sounds really exciting. I can't wait to see the movie. I'm going to be seeing it soon, I hope, for our press junket.
I'm going to be on vacation.
Now, Doctor Strange comes out in a few weeks, so we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange a lot in the weeks ahead. Can't wait to see it. I hope it works. Terry, thank you for sharing with us what you learned from this IMAX presentation last night for fans. For all things Marvel, Doctor Strange and otherwise, keep it here on IGN.